Siegfried Loraine Sassoon. Siegfried Loraine Sassoon was an English poet, writer, and soldier. Decorated for bravery on the Western Front, he became one of the leading poets of the First World War. His poetry described the horrors of the trenches.
Motivated by patriotism, Sassoon joined the British Army just as the threat of a new European war was recognized. He broke his arm badly in a riding accident and was put out of action before even leaving England, spending the spring of 1915 healing from his injury.
He was commissioned into the 3rd Battalion Special Reserve as a second lieutenant on May 29, 1915. On November 1st, his younger brother Hamlet was killed in action. He soon became horrified by the realities of the war, and the tone of his writing changed completely, intended to convey the ugly truth of the trenches. Details such as rotting corpses, mangled limbs, filth, and suicide are all trademarks of his work.
Good morning, the General said, when we met him last week on our way to the line. Now the soldiers he smiled at are most of them dead, and were cursing his staff for incompetent swine. He's a cheery old card, grunted Harry to Jack, as they slogged up to Arras with rifle and pack. But he did for them both by his plan of attack.
The general, pointedly anonymous in the poem, the general is the figurehead for the kind of planning that led to massive loss of life during the torrential warfare on the Western Front, Arras being a particularly grim example of the human cost of the war.
The Second Battle of Arras was a diversionary battle that took place from April to May 1917 and was intended to draw strength away from a larger French offensive to the south of Isen. While very successful at first, gaining ground and employing innovative new tactics, by the end of the offensive, such advantage had been largely lost, and over 150,000 British and Commonwealth soldiers were dead. In-depth analysis of Sassoon's poem. Good morning, the general said. The breeziness of the general and his pleasant demeanor is used as a powerful contrast to the consequences of his actions. Sassoon's satirical representation of the general is clever. It suggests, perhaps unfairly, that his upbeat nature somehow reflects a lack of seriousness with which he takes in charge.
On the way to the line, the soldiers were making their way to the front. Most of them dead. The inverted comma signifies the lower class accent of the speaker, and dropping off the third sound. This class voice gives the poem more subversive tone. The consequences of the cheery general's actions are devastating.
And recursing his staff were incompetent swine. The representatives of the general's staff, those soldiers working administratively at the general's command, were often intensely disliked by the average soldier. Here, their incompetence disgusts the soldiers.
He's a cheery old card, grunted Harry to Jack. The soldiers see the general as a card or character. Their tone is generous, given the physical effort they are making. The names of the soldiers are common and shows that they are typical Tommies. This is obviously an emotive move. The irony of the man's appreciative statement shortly becomes clear.
Slogged up to Arras, the Battle of Arras that took place from April to May 1917. But he did for them both by his plan of attack. The single end stop line at the end of the poem is dramatic, and this is the pointed lesson of this poem, that the general and his staff are responsible for the death of the thousands of men.